Attention listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston, do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code TAGS, TAGS. What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast, episode 294. I'm your host, Steve V, in Ptown. More to talk about that alongside Jeremy Ross Lopez, who I'm going to see tomorrow.
I know,
how are
so
you?
exciting. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really excited to have one night in Boston to see you. And after all this time, I can't
know,
wait.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. We'll be at Lolita. Super excited about that. And our other co-host joining us tonight is Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How are you, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. COVID negative, so that's a good thing.
Oh, yes. We got to talk all about that. First, well, why don't we talk about that first? It's just so interesting. I had a couple stories that I wanted to talk about, and it's so weird. People talking about, I'm in Provincetown, Ptown, having such a great time here, staying at the Crown. The
Crown and
Point.
Anchor.
Not that one, because that's a lot of fun.
Okay.
I'm at the Crown Point Inn, which I highly recommend. It's really great. They have a totally gay spot down the street that's really awesome. But I've met so many people. Shout out to, I think it's Justin, who works here, who listens to our show, who took me to get my massage. He walked me over to the spa here and said, "Do you have a podcast about gay?" And I'm like, "I do." He loves our show, so shout out to him.
That's how it all starts.
Yes, and I was really shout out to my new friends Andrew and Xavier, who we met here. I just love being on traveling and our gay community, when you can just meet people like that. It's so fun and I love it. And I literally just left the tea dance. It was 90s and I came over to see you all to
just for us. Aww.
Yeah, exactly. But we have to kind of talk a little bit about COVID because, as we know, things are changing here and there. One of them is views of COVID vaccines among LGBT adults is totally changing. 8 in 10 report of LGBTQ adults report being fully vaccinated, 80% with one of their dose vaccines or two of their dose. And we are above our straight counterparts. And I'm not surprised by this because we have so many destinations like this. And I can tell you here in Ptown, they not only ask for your COVID vaccination, but they really look at it to make sure it coincides with your identification. And I really appreciate that. I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, just this morning, Kodi and I were talking offline, and we're curious to know if you've received this, Jeremy. But I woke up to my phone alerting me that this new, it wanted me to agree. It knew, I think, because of my notifications that I was in Provincetown, and it wanted me to go through this whole procedure to agree so that it could track when I'm around another phone of somebody that had been testing positive for COVID, and it would alert me. And I asked my friend, who's a lawyer, by the way, because I wasn't messing around, should I do this? And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. That sounds a little creepy and weird." So I declined on it. But Kodi, you had a different story with this.
Yeah. So I was on my way to visit my mother for the weekend, just, to visit her and to hang out with her because I visit her as much as possible. And while I was on the train almost to my destination, I got an alert from an app I didn't even download. And it said, "You have been within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes of somebody who tested positive for COVID." And that freaked me the heck out. And so I went to the website, and apparently, that within the tri state area, I guess Delaware, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, they are tracking how close, if you're in proximity of somebody and if they test positive for COVID. So that freaked me out. I didn't even continue my trip. I turned
Could
right
you
back
imagine
around and
if you
came
were
home.
here? There's a place called the Dick Doc can you imagine if you were going down on somebody? Okay, that would be me. And your phone went up and you looked up and I'm like, I'm 2 feet away from him. And
Oh
it's
my
saying I'm
goodness.
6 feet. And too
The
late.
grinder of COVID for grinder.
Yes. Oh my God. Jeremy, have you even heard of this at all?
I have not. This is the first time I've heard of it. I'm like kind of shocked.
Yeah, it's a little, I don't know. How did you
I
feel
guess
about it?
it's like a little alarming, but it's also like I there's some aspect of it that's a little reassuring too. I don't know. The problem with all this like whole talk of the whole entire thing is there's so many different opinions about it and about the
Thank you.
vaccine, and
Yeah.
it just gets almost political where it doesn't need to.
Yes.
And so I like to just be very neutral in the whole thing. I got vaccinated. I thought that was the right thing to do, and that's where that is. And so, I mean, it's kind of a good thing and it's kind of strange at the same time, but it's also new, which is why it feels strange. Like any sort of notification letting you know that you've been around it, but then also would you not want to know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what,
Everything's a
Jeremy?
50-50.
To your point, Jeremy, actually, I was sort of ready to agree to this until my friend thought it seemed creepy and don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't. But part of me was twofold. A, I thought, well, kudos to technology. But on
Mm-hmm.
the other hand, if the person that's 6 feet away from me tested positive, how does it know that? And then why is that person still out and about?
Right.
And I would
Well,
just wonder how all that works.
well, for me, in my own personal experience, what happened was it alerted me as soon as they tested positive. It says I came into proximity from them a week ago. So it was last Saturday when I came into contact with them, which is kind of late
Oh.
if you ask me,
Oh,
because I
I
would have
thought you
already
meant it
been.
was immediate, like day of.
No, no.
Oh,
They must have tested yesterday. They must have after Saturday, the 21st. They must have gotten sick, and then they tested yesterday, and then it alerted me.
wow.
Yeah, it's things are real right now with this whole uptick and with the Delta variant. And I
Yeah.
mean, when I first got here the first day, it was so weird. Remember, I was talking about an MMX party in Fire Island recently and how I was there. And this was 2 weeks ago. And my host, the host of the house that I stayed in for the 24 hours that I was there, said that he had tested positive and that he
Oh
had
my
a fever
goodness.
and no taste, and he wanted to know how I was feeling. And I know in between the time that I was there, they had a full moon sex party. And so I'm thinking, well,
Wow.
2 weeks later, I mean, I'm thinking it seemed a little late to like reach out to me. I'm fine. But I thought, but good for him for just kind of putting it out there in general. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like with things like I've experienced that, just being here in P Town and seeing, because they had such a high tick of numbers during July 4th,
Hmm.
and going indoors, I was literally just left the tea dance, and the minute you walk in, which you're in a somewhat enclosed area, you wear your mask. When you get out, you can take it off. The dance floor, a couple of the places will allow you to dance, but it's people with their masks on, which, okay, you just have to, it is what it is. So they are taking precautions on that front. And everybody, you do know that everybody's vaccinated, so I do appreciate that. And then lastly, I just think that our community in general, a larger share of LGBT adults report receiving at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine, and as compared versus 66% of the general population. So
Snaps to
kudos
our
to our community.
community.
Yeah,
Yes.
right? I think that's really cool. So, anyways, continue to be safe, because I just know I was talking to a nurse on this trip here that said things are going to get worse before they get better. And I think
No.
I know, it's just, just be careful, y'all. That's all I have to say on that. Um, Here's what it's like when you follow. We've been talking about OnlyFans so much, and I was just at, again, the Tea Dance 90s night. Janet was playing. I was happy with my crew of friends, and I'm looking and I see this guy. I'm like, how do I know that guy? He's cute, but how do I know him? And I realize, oh my gosh, I subscribe to his OnlyFans page.
Oh wow. I
he
was gonna
he
ask if you had him turn around.
I didn't even need to, because he's so sexy. He goes at Derek with an E, at Derek Allen with an E at the end of Allen as well. At Derek Allen, I follow him. I know he lives predominantly in LA, and I subscribed to him for so long because how sometimes they perform with other OnlyFans people. So
Mm-hmm.
he had performed in Nick's Lucky Charms, who I subscribed to, and that's how I discovered him. I thought he was sexy. He's a total top with a huge dick, and pounds really
Ooh.
good. And he was shorter in person
Oh,
than
I think
I.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
You
He's like,
do?
Here comes
yeah,
the
he's
realization.
so he used to live in New York. He's super, super short. He has dark brown hair and a facial hair, but he has like a gigantic dick.
I'm
Yes, and
Googling
cute
him right now.
dimples.
Yes, I know exactly who it
Cute
is.
dimples. He's very sexy.
He slept with
And
my roommate when I lived in Hell's Kitchen.
so
Wow.
I think my conversation to you guys is, here we are, like, fanning out on celebrities, but now these are celebrities in their own right. I think in some ways, because here we are, it's called OnlyFans, for crying out loud. And it was just so funny to see him in person. I only had so much time because I had to get back to record this, and I was talking to my friends. He was alone for a good portion of the time, and I could have snuck away, but I didn't. But I wanted to he looked like he would have been really receptive and cool.
Hmm.
And shout out to Derek Allen, who's apparently here in Ptown, and he's still sexy as fuck. A little shorter than I thought, but doesn't matter. Really hot, and yeah, I mean, who's? It brings up the question, though: who's somebody, Jeremy, that you're following that you want to describe? Since we've been talking about OnlyFans so much.
So one of my friends I actually follow, his photography page is Joe V Photography, and he has a Twitter, and then he does extended content on OnlyFans of not only him physically and personally, but also his models that he photographs. So he does have really cool content. Some he is the photographer that like interacts with the models, so like gets them like hot and heavy, and then other cases it's just the models playing with each other and he's like
Ooh,
photographing and videoing it. So it's
ooh.
sexy, the dynamic of his photography in general, and a lot of the black and white photography is beautiful.
Yeah, I know him. I know his work, and it's so beautiful. You're right.
Hmm.
Do you follow anybody, Cody?
Not that I met in person. I'm trying to search my brain of anybody that I have seen out or that I know personally. Well, that'd be kind of strange to know them personally and be like, "Oh, I follow your OnlyFans."
I just love our community too, because I think I was talking about when I was in Puerto Vallarta recently. We talk a lot about him, John Duff, the singer, the recording
Hmm.
Yes.
artist. And I remember walking by him, and I'm fanning out now for some of our own community, because we have so many cool people that are stars now. And it used to just be, only Hollywood stars that you would fan out over. And now we have so many in our community that we can really fan out. and these pockets of the world that are these destinations that really are so welcoming. And so alongside that, I also saw Ginger Minge perform. If anyone's watching
Woohoo!
All Stars right now, she's in the top 4, and I went to her one woman show, and it was really, really good, so entertaining. And she just dropped a new single, country single, that was really good, and it was so entertaining. I had such a good time there. So shout out to Ginger Minge as well. But yeah, absolutely, so super fun. um in other entertainment news, before we get into a few other hot topics, do you guys know Aaron Carter?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. He used to shop at that boutique that
Oh, you
I
did, and you said he was
ran.
always out of it, right?
Yes, he was always.
What?
He came in with his girlfriend, and he was always like, a little cuckoo. I think he was living in Hell's Kitchen because he was in some sort of Broadway show.
Okay, well, we're going to talk more about that. And if anyone knows Aaron Carter, he is the brother of his
Nick
older
Carter.
brother, Nick Carter,
From the Backstreet
Backstreet
Boys.
Boys. And so, and he's struggled with addiction and a lot of different things. So we want him to do well. But he was
Yes.
dropped from Naked Boys Singing before he even started. And I can't even believe there's a Naked Boys Singing run currently in Vegas, but he won't even be making the debut because he was dropped from the lineup after refusing to get vaccinated against COVID.
What?
Yes. So, but they wouldn't leave a hole in the cast, so they added 2 new fixtures, Chris Salvador and David Hernandez from American Idol. Both of the addition are publicly out and gay and will now lead the nude singing troupe. I've actually seen Naked Boys Singing versions of it around before, and it's awesome and it's really good. They are naked, but it's not like sex on stage or anything like that. And after a point in time, they all have great voices. You lose the fact that they're even naked, and it becomes more about the art form, which is kind of cool. But I think they could do without Mr. Aaron Carter, and
Yeah,
especially if he's not going to get vaccinated, right?
yeah,
That's
I agree.
crazy.
Ridiculous. I know. So, okay. Well, we have to talk about a new report that says that less than half of Americans are understanding HIV. Only 42% of respondents in this survey knew HIV wasn't transmissible when properly treated. And there's this new report in its second annual State of HIV Stigma study, and it was just released last Thursday. GLAD found that the stories and voices of people living with HIV are often not prioritized enough to decrease the stigma around the HIV epidemic. And the study measured American attitudes towards HIV, those living with HIV, and it was funded by Gilead, who we all know, who does PrEP and
Mhm.
Truvada, and it looks to address the HIV epidemic in the South. So, GLAD's survey found that 48% of adults reported feeling knowledgeable about HIV. However, the organization noted that the number is 3 points lower than last year. And so, for the
Wow.
second year in a row, we are finding that HIV stigma remains high while HIV knowledge remains low among Americans. And it brings up a lot of question as to why, and a lot of it has to do with stigma and misinformation about HIV is still widespread throughout our society. Only 42% of people knew that people living with HIV can transmit the virus while on a proper treatment regimen. And when treated properly, people living with HIV can live longer and healthy lives, as we all know. U equals U. A
Hmm.
vast majority of people did agree that there is stigma around HIV. That stigma was shown in the study through questions on interacting with people with HIV. So, it's really found that there's a divide between the west of our country and in the south. And the Southern AIDS Coalition, the Center for Health Policy and Equalities Research at Duke University, recently released a report titled HIV in the U.S. Deep South. And it showed that there's less knowledge of people understanding HIV. And I don't know, Jeremy, does that surprise you at all that we're still at this point of people not understanding it?
I mean, it honestly doesn't surprise me, but it's definitely frustrating to hear because it's like when you're part of the community, it's uh, just disheartening that people don't want to educate themselves or don't even try to, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think that there is just so much out there that could easily help you learn uh, just the logistics of everything. And it doesn't take much time out of someone's day to like learn about our community, more about our community, rather than just. And the other thing that I think about is the fact that there's probably so many people that don't know about it that are like having promiscuous sex and things and just,
Mm-hmm.
or not even that, but on the apps chastising people that are open about their status, not knowing any education or background about how things are transmitted.
Wow, that part.
Absolutely. And Cody, it's interesting because it seems like there's a current in Paris. Art Positive is an artistic project, the culmination of which will be an international exhibition. That the objective of this initiative is to combat through art the stigma, discrimination, and isolation some people still face with the virus. And I saw some pictures of it. It looks amazing with people like Billy Porter and
Oh,
other
wow.
celebrity artists. Do you think that the stigma is going to change with either like shows like ours or the entertainment industry? That's how we're going to change perceptions.
I think that that's one avenue. I totally agree. Shows like Pose, and I think there's a new show on HBO called It's a Sin that did a really good job about exposing the AIDS epidemic and how it came to prominence back in the 80s. I think all of those things are enlightening, and art is a way, it imitates life and life imitates art. So the more that we express ourselves through the art, the more people will have knowledge. I also used to be a peer educator down in the South, and I can tell you,
Oh,
yeah, about HIV back in the day. Back in the early 90s, I was a peer educator. And we had a really tough time getting out into the community and making sure that people were educated about HIV. So I understand the struggle and how hard it is to get the word out there. But I think our community does a better job than, I want to say, the straight community, because that's another reason that we're doing so well with our COVID numbers. I want to take it back to that
right.
for a second, because we've already had to learn about a pandemic and how to deal with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we just need to keep showing examples. You and I had, Cody, you and I had Sebastian Lacaze talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he really, if you want to hear a really good podcast, it's a limited podcast called Chasing Happy with Sebastian Lacaze. He recounts being a huge Broadway actor. My gosh, he's done so much work. And he really recounts his HIV status and how the stigma he had to get over himself and ultimately be comfortable and then be proud of it and almost just educate people. And it's a great show, but I think it's going to come from a lot of more and more, just we have to keep putting it out there. And I applaud this Paris exhibit that hopefully will become international, and other artists out there like Billy Porter and Sebastian Lacaze. That's the only way we're going to finally change people's minds and educate. So
Yes, that's the
kudos
way.
to that. Hey guys, your buddy Steve V here, host of Tags Podcast, and I was just thinking about the time I was in the bathtub dating this guy, asking him to shave my ass, and let me tell you, he was all about it. But when he was going down with the disposable blade, I was so freaked out. Like, what did I get myself into? It was so creepy, and I was so fearful that I had to stop the whole thing the minute I felt a nick. Oh my gosh. Well, now there is something out there that I don't even need somebody to do for me. I can do on my own. Are you ready for an out-of-the-world experience, guys? Well, you have to look no further than the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped that has just taken off in not only the USA, but Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and Singapore. And inside the package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your whole solar system. First scheduled for liftoff, new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on a journey to trim your body, balls, butt like I did, and even your anus. That's what I'm talking about. This 4th generation trimmer also features cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight you can turn on and off when needed for more precise shaving throughout your travels across the universe. And this Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker. It's kind of like having a little astronaut to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ear. The Weed Whacker is also waterproofed, and this nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which also helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Don't forget about the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and the Crop Reviver to help your little planets be on their A-games while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts from their Performance Package 4.0. I'm talking about the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Ready, guys? You can get 20% off plus free shipping by using our code here, TAGS, TAGS, by going to manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code TAGS at manscaped.com. For a clean trinity and beyond, your spaceballs will thank you. Recently, we always tell you to ask for advice, relationship, sex advice, and we give it. And recently, I think it was you, Jeremy. I'm not sure who was on the show, but it was a guy that is in the military several miles away, 3,000 to be exact, I think, from his husband. And he was asking us how to keep it spicy
Yes,
when
that was
you're.
me and Lincoln on that episode.
Thank you. So he wanted to give us a
Lincoln and
report.
I.
And we always, you wonder, Jeremy, or even Kodi, when we give this, do people take our advice? And people are. They're writing back. And
Love
he
it.
writes, I tried to get my husband to listen to the podcast, but podcasts aren't his thing. He is 22 and I'm 28. This is not my main question, but um, he wanted to let us know. What was he saying here? That he did try a bunch of the things that we did recommend. And I think that's really great. He was asking, okay, yeah. So he wanted to follow up too, though, and say, my other question is, if you are in a committed monogamous relationship, is it appropriate to request to see your spouse's phone? If you do request to see your
Ooh.
spouse's phone and they deny it, does that imply they are hiding something?
Ooh.
Let's start
That's
with you, Cody. That's
such a
juicy.
I
loaded
was hoping
question.
you wouldn't start with me.
We have to start with you because you're in a current relationship. And I mean, yeah, what are your first thoughts with that? I mean, yeah,
Okay, I have
loaded.
to say, I know, right? I hope it doesn't listen to this. So I have to say that I have my boyfriend's password to his phone. He lets me have it anytime,
What?
and he has my passcode. Sometimes he forgets, and I still tell him the passcode. We anytime there's like no secrets in our as far as the phone is concerned. I don't know if there's any other secrets that are going to come out later in the in our relationship, but right now, as far as the phone is concerned, he lets me have it. I can do whatever I want on it. I text his friends on his phone. It's kind of wild how open we are as far as the phone is concerned. I would be a little bit worried if my partner did not have that openness with the phone. But again, I feel like there's a line that you have to draw as far as privacy and boundaries, because I would never go through his phone without permission. I haven't gone through his DMs of his Instagram. I'm sure he hasn't done the same for me because we trust one another. There has to be a basis of trust. So
Right.
I feel like it's a balancing act. You have to trust and you also have to be open.
Wow, that is really interesting. So what was the conversation, if you could just share what, because I think
Okay.
this would help out. What was the conversation or how did it lead up to, hey, can I have access to your phone?
I don't know if there was ever even a conversation about it. I think it was just we were both open to having access to the phone. I'm trying to search my brain and I'm
No,
coming
that's
up
okay. I mean, if
empty
you,
for
it
a
sounds like you guys
conversation.
were in, I mean, it sounds like you were in conjunction with the
We were
same
probably
thing.
having sex and we gave each other the phone passcodes and that's how it came out. No, I'm just joking.
Wow. And then lastly, how often do you feel comfortable grabbing his phone and just do you go on there to scroll around there looking? I'm just trying to understand.
I can go on there anytime. If he gets a text message and he's like, "Can you answer that text message for me?" We'll go on there, open up his phone, and I'll text the person back.
You know, it's really interesting, Jeremy, because I just met this wonderful couple that live in New York here in Provincetown, and we're gonna have dinner with them shortly. They have a child, a 7-year-old daughter that sounds lovely, and I noticed there's a couple other topics that are about perception in this particular episode 294, and I've learned so much about just in this short time hanging out with them, and I don't want a kid per se, but I'm connecting with this couple and we're going to hang out in New York, and I'm really excited about that. um this person did write in about being in a committed monogamous relationship and when is it appropriate to request your spouse's phone. I did, back to this couple I'm speaking of, when we said, do you want to go to the tea dance together? And they said, yes, get our number. And they signed it as the person, one of them signed it with both of their names. So I don't know if I'm probably just talking to one of them, but they, it said both of the couple's names in the thing. What are your thoughts about this? And because I think for me, when my phone is my phone and I'd rather just, I don't know. I don't know that I would be comfortable with it. If they picked it up and saw something, I would be okay with it. But what are your thoughts, Jeremy?
I don't know. I'm kind of territorial about mine, and I feel like
Yeah.
it's like the most like private piece of someone because you spend so much time on it daily. And then also all of your interactions with like family members and just any sort of form of relationship in your
Nuanced
life.
relationships like
Yeah,
family
and
members or
there
you and
might be
I.
things you don't want to discuss with people or stories that you want to keep as secrets that I think it's okay to keep as a secret, even in a relationship. So I don't know, but I'm also not a professional at dating, and I definitely don't
I mean,
always
neither am
have.
I.
And I no, but I'm just saying I don't have like I guess the best outlook on it because I do like to keep certain things private uh and then other things I just don't care telling like the world and putting it on the podcast and all that stuff. So I don't know, it feels a little personal to have that piece open, but then I also do think if you're not hiding anything, then why not?
You know what? And in the name of perceptions, which I'm kind of naming this loosely, I am meeting this couple and knowing that they have a daughter and they've talked a lot about this is one of their first trips. Their daughter's 7 years old, and this is one of the first times they've broken away to have some time. They do have date night here and there, but they
Mhm.
haven't had a full on vacation, I think, in 7 years for the most part. And so they are busy with their careers, daughter, obviously we all can imagine with COVID raising a
Mhm.
child and all of this. And
Mhm.
so in the response and text that I got from them that said both of their names in it, it probably was just one of their phones, but
Okay.
maybe they're both going to pick up the phone because they know, well, our lives are crazy, and babe, you're probably gonna, if you see Steve text, then he'll respond back. And
Right.
so it does open my mind up to think that if I was, perhaps we would just have phones like that. And if and maybe to your point, Jeremy, if I saw a group text that my husband was in, or my boyfriend, I would just, that I wasn't a part of, I'd probably like, oh, avoid that. I would just respond to the things that were more pressing or
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. And I could probably see that going on. We're going to talk
I,
a little bit more about open relationships in a minute. And I think, to your point, Kodi, and to this person who wrote in, that they said, if you are in a committed monogamous relationship, which I understand you are, Kodi,
Yes, I am.
the answer, when is it appropriate? Well, you kind of answered the question, maybe not appropriate, but you said yours was during sex.
No, that was a joke.
no,
It
that
was
was a
probably
joke.
Okay. Because I
because
thought, is that your answer?
things just come out during sex. Like I love you. Everything just comes out.
And go through my phone. I love you
But
so much. Now,
Literally, things come out
yes.
involuntarily.
but
But maybe you could shed some light on this. So we're just talking about this one particular situation of, at least shed some light on a monogamous relationship. When did you find it appropriate?
very early, I think that what actually transpired was we had that faith and that trust within each other as far as the phone is concerned, and we definitely were open to letting, we wanted to play music and I gave him my passcode. It was very organic. It's not something, it wasn't a defining moment in our relationship. It was just something that happened. And
Right.
or his friend texted him and he said, oh, can you text that person back, because I almost said her name on the podcast.
I know, right?
It literally almost came out. And we're just both very open as far as the phone is concerned. But who's to say that works for us? I'm not going to say that that's going to work
Right.
for everybody, because everybody has certain different levels and different boundaries as far as the phone is concerned. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
find your own boundaries and then work from there is my advice, basically.
Yeah, in the name of opening up perceptions, I think I would have immediately said, I don't think it's appropriate ever. I mean, I think you just have to have trust.
Yeah.
And why do you need to be in my phone? I mean, if I'll show you stuff, but I opened my mind up a little bit with this couple that I just met. And
Mhm.
in keeping within the name of, a listener of ours loves our show, and I got back to him on something. And I think one of you two, or both of you, we were talking about open relationships recently. And he wrote in, thanks for he says, I think with any relationship regarding to, he was questioning our talk because none of us are in open relationships, essentially. And
Mhm.
on episode 292, I think we were giving advice to somebody about open relationships. And they thought perhaps maybe we either need to bring somebody on that is in a open relationship to shed a little bit more light on that. And perhaps we weren't, I thought we did, but sometimes if you're not in it, you can't really speak to it.
There are
But
blind
perhaps
spots.
yeah. And so I appreciated him speaking to that. I did tell him that, Kodi, you and I had a couple, or sorry, Sebastian and I had a couple on that was in a polyamorous relationship, and we want to continue that conversation. But I let him know that we will continue the conversation with a little bit more open mind if we haven't been. He wrote in, thanks for getting back to me. I think with any relationship, regardless to whether it's open or polyamorous, communication, like I think we always say, is the biggest attribute to a success. He says that his relationship, just like many others, hasn't always been perfect, but his hubby And I try to always have open and honest conversations about our thoughts and feelings. We always try to find a common ground and work together on the things we feel and need more attention. Relationships take work, and all the individuals involved have to be committed to putting in the work that is needed in order to have a long, happy, and healthy relationship. Um, he says, when it comes to the open part of my relationship, it really came down to sitting down, discussing boundaries and expectations, but then taking the time to revisit them over the years. You have to check in with your partner to see where you are at. And he thinks that open relationships always are more scrutinized, even by a community that claims to be inclusive, open minded, and embrace diversity. I think changing the way we talk and discuss about open relationships is a small step towards changing how others view them. And I do agree with that in a
I
lot of
mean,
ways, because in talking about perception, and I think, I don't know, what's one of you jump in? What are your
I
first
was
thoughts
gonna
on
say
that? Yeah, go ahead.
that sounds like my relationship. So I don't. It's I think that's wonderful and beautiful advice for any relationship that you venture into. Communication is the basis of it, and trust is the basis of it. I think that that's great relationship advice, and it shouldn't really matter whether it's an open relationship. I guess there are nuances from a monogamous relationship versus an open relationship, but at the very core, the basics are the same for both. That's just my feel.
I hear you. And Jeremy, do you think that sometimes even our own community can be a little judgmental towards open relationships because we don't understand them? Or what do you think's going on? And do you think we need to have more people speak up about their relationships so that it's like we were talking about HIV, it's less stigmatized?
I think so. I think it takes a discussion like we're having to know really more on that specific subject, especially if, like the listener said, I haven't been in one, and not everyone has been in one. So to speak on it, I think also, like Kodi said, there are certain aspects that it's doesn't matter if it's open or not. There are just things that do help and keep a strong, healthy relationship, whether it be open, polyamorous, a throuple, one
Yep.
on one. I mean, all of them in every facet. I think the communication is key, and that's in any sort of relationship, not even just a significant other. And I do think that it does help talking about it and discussing it. And I think the key point of checking in with your partner or partners is the most important, on touching base at where you're at along the timeline of being together. And and everyone changes, like physically and emotionally, over time, and some people grow, some people go backwards. So I think that that is definitely a crucial point in maintaining uh, just a healthy relationship in general, any sort of relationship.
Yeah, and I was looking some stuff up, and in general, I think we'll continue to have this conversation, and we certainly have in 4 years had this conversation with people in open relationships, so it's nothing new to the show. But I think I was saying recently, I was watching The Shy, and just like a lot of issues in our community, transgender, non-binary, bisexuality, I was talking about on The Shy how they are featuring a straight hetero couple opening up their relationship. It was a young hetero couple. And so I think, like all the conversations that we continue to have on this show, it's refreshing to see more examples of it, more conversations happening with it. We will continue to do it on this show. I invited him and his partner to be on the show, but certainly we can have
Ooh,
others. I right. I don't think
that's
we
gonna
need
be
to
fun.
bring on a, because it was interesting, because at one point the listener said, I think you maybe could benefit from having like another host that is in an open relationship. But the more I thought about that, is open relationships are very nuanced and very different. There's some that have don't ask, don't tell. There's some open relationships where they play only together. There's some that are a lot more like non-binary, where they have other relationships on top of the one that they're currently in. There's,
Polyamory.
on and on. And so I think we could have a new person come on, but they would fall into maybe one type of category and it wouldn't reflect all. I think our job is probably to just be more open-minded and have guests on and continue to just speak openly about how we're learning about it. And just make it less stigmatized. And I think that will expand the conversation. But we definitely want to hear from you, and you can always DM us and we can give you sex and relationship advice. So do not refrain from @TAGSPodcast on Instagram, and we will get to you for sure. I want to thank you guys. This has been really good. I love it. I can't wait to see you, Jeremy, tomorrow.
I
Finally,
know, so excited.
We will definitely post a picture for sure. We're going to a restaurant, Lolita. Can't wait.
Photoshop me in.
We will. Follow Jeremy @JRossLopez on Instagram. And then my other co-host, Kodi, I will see you Wednesday night when I'm back in New York. Absolutely follow him @Mr. Maurice, or he's a life coach at KMD Coaching. Guys, thank you so much. This has been so fun, as always. And in the meantime, continue having hot
gay
sex.
Yeah.
Hey, Tags listeners, craving for more tags? Hungry like I am? Well, now you can unlock exclusive Tags content. I'm talking about our weekly Tags After Show and our twice monthly Dark and Dirty show. Now you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. You'll get a notice each week when new episodes are dropped exclusively for you. So what are you getting from this exclusive content? Well, you're getting a weekly Tags After Show where the conversation continues with hot gay sex topics in a more relaxed, behind-the-scenes, more intimate format. Our twice monthly Dark and Dirty show will often feature special guests like my co-hosts, but gets a little darker and a little dirtier as we reveal our sexcapades to your exclusive ears. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe now to unlock exclusive Tags content and know that you'll be supporting Tags Podcast to continue delivering the quality of Tags Podcast you've come to love. You can unlock this exclusive content by going to TAGSPodcast.com and click on the link Tags After Show. Thanks for being a supporter and continue having hot gay sex.